welcome to another Lawn Fawn video. Today we are so excited to be introducing our brand new die set, Build a Bee. We're also going to be introducing a new sentiment set here called Henry's Build a Sentiment Honeybee. This is the latest in our Henry's Build a Sentiment series, and it works great with the new Build a Bee and also our bug costumes for our Build a Critters. And then we're going to be taking a look at our Be Happy background stencils. This set of stencils has 4 stencils and it makes the cutest little bee background with little trails and hearts, and I can't wait to show you how it works. But first up, we're going to take a look at Build a Bee. And so this die set has the beehive along with the base for it. We also have a cute flower with a stem and the flower in the flower center and a heart the bee can hold. We have the bee's head and the little antenna detail and the bee's body and the bee's body detail. We also have some wings, then the backer for the eye and the backer for the body of the bee. And then we also have these cute little arms that you can add to the bee or not so he can hold onto things. So to layer these items together, we're going to add some adhesive to the back of the detail piece and layer it onto the base piece of the beehive. And you can see just how cute that looks. And then we're going to start working on the flower here. So we're going to add a little bit of glue to the center of the flower and also to the little circle at the top of the stem. Then we can add the flower center to the middle of the flower, and then we can add the flower onto the stem. And I love this flower because it's really cute for helping set the scene. It's cute to have the bee hold too, and you could do different colors of flowers, which I think would be adorable. Now we're going to build the bee, and so we're going to add some tape runner to the back of the bee's head, and we're going to layer this little backer, which is going to add the color for the eyes and the mouth of the bee. And then we're going to do the same thing with the bee's body. So we have the bee base there. We're going to die cut that out of yellow cardstock, and then the frame that has the stripe detail will be out of black licorice cardstock, and then we can just layer these 2 pieces to create the body for the bee. Next up, we're going to add the antenna onto the bee's head, and so we're just going to add some tape runner onto that, and I think this is just so cute. What's nice about having the head separate from the body is that you can put the bee in different positions. So first we're going to do this one where he's kind of facing forward straight at you. You can see just how cute he is. Then here we have those little wings, and those are fun die cut out of vellum. I think that's so pretty. You can also do them out of white cardstock too. And we're just going to layer that behind the bee. And this bee right here is just absolutely adorable. But we also have these little arms that you can add. So we're going to tuck them right underneath his chin. And isn't that so cute? And so you can have the arms just there, or the arms could also hold onto the flower or the heart or even something else, which I think is just so super cute. And here is what it looks like when you add the little flower into his arms. I mean, isn't that just adorable? And then here is what it looks like when you add that cute little heart, which is just so sweet. And here we're going to start layering all the different pieces for the bees. We're going to make some more bees to show you different things that you can do with them. So we're going to layer the backer onto the body, and then we've got the head there. We're going to add the antenna onto the heads. And then now we can start to play with these pieces. So we're going to add some tape runner to the back of the bee's head. And then for this one, we're going to do it in the same position as the other bee, but we're going to actually add some more arms to it. So we're going to add his little wings, and you can have the wings point up or you could have them point down too. Both looks really cute. And then we're going to take these little arms and we're going to tuck them under his chin. And then we're also going to tuck some down to be almost like little feet. And this is just a different look that you can do by layering on more of these cute little arms and legs. And then for the next bee, we're going to have him kind of flying to the side, and you can have him go in either direction. So he can have the head on the left or the right, both totally works. And I'll show you that in a card in just a little bit. But isn't that so cute? I really like this guy like that. And you can still add the little arms and tuck them under the chin, and he can still hold on to things. And then of course you can still layer the little wings behind too. And so I like that with this one little bee set, you can have bees that look different, or you could have a bunch of bees in different positions on one card, which is kind of nice too. Here you can see with that kind of sideways flying bee how he looks really cute holding onto the flower too. And so now we are going to take a look at the Henry's Build a Sentiment Honeybee. So our Henry sets are these really awesome sets that have all of these different phrases that you can mix and match together, almost like magnetic poetry. They have the same size rectangular base so that you can easily line them up. And all of the Henry sets are mix and matchable. So you could take buzzin' by to say, and then you could go to another set that said thank you, for example. So you can mix and match them, which makes it really cool. So here you could say like buzzin' by to say hi. You can kind of go through the stamp set and see what you might be able to find, and you can build these fun little custom sentiments. And this is filled with a bunch of bee puns, which are just adorable. And these are just some examples of everything that you can build in the set. There's so many fun phrases that go for a lot of different occasions too, which I really love. And this set is cute for bee things, it's cute for honey things, and it's also cute for like any other bugs that kind of buzz around, right? And so now we are going to take a look at the Be Happy background stencils. And it is a set of 4 stencils. You'll see there's etched numbers in the upper right-hand corner so you know what order to go in. And the stencils have etched details which make it really easy to line up. So we're going to start with stencil number 1 here, which has the wings and the trails. And I'm going to be using some merman ink here to color these in. I also think this could be really pretty with white pigment ink on like a darker color of cardstock. I think that'd be really beautiful. And Chari is going to show you later on how she uses this stencil onto a different color of cardstock, not just white cardstock, which looks really pretty too. Next, we're going to move on to stencil number 2, and you can see all of those etched guidelines there. That's going to make it really, really easy to line up, and this is going to be the body of the bee. So it's going to line up with all of those little wings, and we are going to be using some lemonade ink for these cute little bees, and so we're just going to ink over the whole stencil, and I wanted them to be this nice bright yellow, so I'm kind of inking over twice over each of them to just really make it a nice bold color. And I always love the big reveal of a stencil. I think it's so cute. And now we've got these adorable little bees that are starting to form. And then next up, we're going to go with number 3. And these are going to be the stripes and the little like stinger for the bees. And again, we're going to use those etch guidelines to help us line it up. And in this case, I'm using some manatee ink. I wanted it to be a gray versus black licorice. I wanted it to be just a little bit lighter, not quite as bold. And so we're going to ink over all of the little bodies of the bees. And one thing I really like about this stencil is that you could stop right here. So you could just ink up the bees and have the cute little trails and just stop at right this point of the stencil, which is such a cute look. Or you can go with stencil number 4 and add in the hearts. And what's fun about the hearts is you can do all sorts of different colors. And I usually do like guava ink, a pink ink with these, but so I thought it'd be fun to change it up and do some purple. So I'm going to do some fresh lavender here, and I'm going to go over all of these cute little hearts. And the hearts are just adorable. I just love them so much. This whole stencil is just so sweet. And here you can see just how cute this little pattern looks. It's absolutely adorable like this. And I also like doing this on white cardstock and then just adding a little bit of color with a really light hand and a brush. So I'm actually using the merman ink here, just tapping it slightly. I'm tapping it off onto my glass mat here and then just bring it on to add a little bit of color. I think this would be really pretty with the fresh lavender color too. And I feel like it just looks gorgeous, or even like a really light brown so it looked kind of aged. I just think it looks really pretty. And I love stencils like this because they make great backgrounds, but you can also use them as the star of the show and just die cut a sentiment and layer over top and have this really pretty card. And so I die cut a thanks so much, and I could just layer this over top and have something really awesome and perfect and ready to go, or I can save this to use with my Build a Bee die set. Next up, we were inspired by Elise to make some cute beehive shaped cards. So we're going to be die cutting this detail piece here from some sunflower cardstock, and then we're going to use some chocolate bar cardstock for the base piece. And then we're going to add a little bit of detail to the markers, and this looks really, really nice on this. So we're going to follow those little stitch lines there and just go over it with a marker in yellow that's just a little bit darker. You can see we're just kind of letting it fade out into nothing towards the middle. And then we're going to take a slightly lighter marker and just blend over it just like this. And you'll see it looks really bold right now, but these markers really soak into these different colors of cardstocks, and you'll see it's going to blend out and it's going to make it feel kind of 3D and really beautiful. And then we're going to add some tape runner to this, and we're going to layer this brown piece on the back. Then we're going to start working on creating a shaped card. And I used to make shaped cards like all the time. And I don't know why I got out of the habit because it's the cutest thing ever. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with a piece of cardstock here that's about the same width as this beehive here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to score it right in the center. So this is 6 inches. We're going to score right at 3, right like that. And then we're just going to fold that in half. Then we're going to take the base piece of the beehive and we're going to die cut this piece of cardstock to create the shaped card. And when we line up the die, we're going to make sure to line up the top of the die with that fold there. And we're going to make sure that the top of the die peeks off just a little bit. So the very top of the die is not going to be die cutting this cardstock. And we'll show you a close-up. So here you can see how the top of it is just peeking out? There's a little bit of that cut line that's not on any paper at all. That's what's going to help us make this shaped card. So once we have that that in placement, we can just go ahead and hold it in place with some low tack tape, and then we'll run it through the die cut machine, and now you'll see that we have this cute shaped card. And you could do this with hearts, with stars, and any shape of anything that you want to create a shaped card with, and these little mini note cards are just adorable. And there you can see the top part is where the die didn't cut, and that creates the shaped card. And so we're going to add some tape runner to this, and now we can just layer that behind this whole more decorative beehive piece, and now we have the cutest little shaped note card. So next, we're going to bring in some of the bees that we created at the beginning of the video so that we can add them to this cute little beehive. And then we're also going to be working on our sentiment too. And for the sentiment, we're going to be using this Henry's Build a Sentiment honeybee, and we're going to use some of the phrases, and instead of stacking them, we're actually going to stack them separately with some clear embossing ink on some black licorice cardstock, because we're going to be trimming out each of these phrases. And so we're going to stamp out happy and bee day. It's a double pun this time. And so we're going to sprinkle on some white heat embossing powder. We can tap off any of the extra and then heat it up with our heat tool. So we'll have a bright, shiny sentiment, which is going to look so nice. And then we're just going to use our scissors to trim out each of these phrases. Then we're going to add some white gel pen details to the bee. And there's something about these little bees that I really like adding a little dot into their eyes. I just think it looks super, super cute. And we'll also add some white gel pen details on to the beehive as well. And then we can take our foam tape and we're going to add some foam tape to the back of each of these items. So the little bee and the phrases too. This is a simple card, so having a little pop is going to make it look really, really nice. And here you can see that we're adding those lines now to the beehive so that it kind of lines up with the white gel pen lines that we added on the bee and also the white heat embossing that we did. And now we have this cute, tiny little card. And what I love about these is that you can use the same design and add different phrases. So the other bee that we made earlier in the video, we added them on, and then we did "You're sweet as honey." So you can use all of those fun bee-shaped puns and create cute custom cards that are really similar to each other, but they all have a little bit of a different feel. And I think these mini cards turned out so cute. Thank you so much, Elise, for the idea, and I can't wait to make lots more mini cards in the future. Now, next up, we are going to be creating an interactive over the rainbow card using our cute little bees. So I've gone ahead and die cut all of these little items to create two bees. And I've cut some yellow cardstock, some sticky note, and some black licorice cardstock, and some white cardstock too. And I'm going to add a little bit of detail to these pieces with my markers, just to give them a little bit of shading. I always pick a marker that's either the same color or slightly darker, and then I just either add one stripe, or sometimes I'll bring in an even lighter marker and just blend it out just a little bit. You can see that I'm layering over like the detail pieces to make sure that the shading is going to shine through enough, and I needed to add a little bit more marker, so I'm going to do that and just blend it out. And you'll see as this dries into the paper, it just looks really, really nice. I'm going to add some warm grays onto these little daisies. I feel like it really makes the petals pop, and then some yellows for the flower centers to match the yellows that I used for the bee. And then I'm going to add some light blue lines on the wings, just on the lines that the die cut make. I feel like that really just makes it pop. And then we're going to go ahead and add some dark green to these stems, just like we did for the bees details. Now here I have my helper, Miles, and he's going to be helping me create these bees. And I'm going to add some liquid glue to the back of the antenna piece, and then we're going to layer that on to the head of the bee. And there's something about once you layer the antenna on, it's just so cute, like you can't help but smile. And so we're going to continue on building these bees. So we're going to add some liquid glue to the other antenna and add it onto the other cute little bee. And then we can layer the little stripes onto the bees' bodies and also layer the backers for the eyes behind the bee's head too. And so you'll see that starts to form all of these cute guys. Next, we're going to add the flower centers to the flowers, and then we can add the flowers onto the stems. And then we can start to form the bee. And I want to have one bee facing one way and the other bee facing the other way, so they're kind of interacting, right? So I'm going to add some tape runner to the back of the bee's head, and I'm going to layer this on to the right side of the bee's body, just like this. And then we can add the cute little arms, and just like we did earlier, I'm going to tuck it right underneath the bee's chin. Then I'm going to tuck the daisy, the stem of the daisy, right underneath his arm so it looks like he's holding it. And then I can add some tape runner to the middle of the wings, and I'm going to layer that behind him too. And I mean, look at that. It's so, so cute. And so what I want is I want a bee that looks exactly the same. He's going to hold the flower and everything, but he's going to face the other way. So we're going to turn the body, and then we're just going to add the head there onto the left-hand side. And then we can layer the arms and the flower and the wings. And now we have these two cute and adorable little bees, and I wanted to add some fun details to them. So I'm taking a light pink marker and I'm going to add some rosy cheeks to both. And then I'm also going to add some white gel pen details and also put the little dot in their eyes again because I just think that looks so adorable. We're going to put the bees aside for now, and we're going to start working on the over the rainbow mechanism. And if you've never made an over the rainbow card, make sure to check out the intro video. We will link it in the description below. So I've gone ahead and die cut this rainbow creator piece there out of some white cardstock. And then I'm going to die cut using this strip here, a bunch of different colors of cardstock to be the rainbow. So we have some raspberry, we have some fake tan, sunflower, algae, tide pool, and also lilac. And then for this base piece here, I've die cut that out of some guava cardstock. And so we're going to add some tape runner to that, and we're going to layer that at the very bottom of this piece. Then we're going to be taking some 1/8 inch double-sided tape and we're going to add that double-sided tape to all of the strips on this piece, just like this. Then we can peel up the liner on that adhesive and add each of the strips in rainbow order. When I add the strips, I like to butt it up against that cardstock piece at the bottom there. That's why I like to add that piece first because it's kind of like a little guide and I can take each piece, just kind of butt it right up against that and then press down and secure it. And then I can peel up the liner on the next piece and do the same thing. And so I'm just gonna work my way down the rainbow here, and this is already looking so cute. I just love adding the little strips. I like seeing the rainbow form. It's just adorable. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to fold along these score lines that the die created for us. There's a little one at the top, at the bottom, and it's just a gentle fold. We're just going to do a gentle little fold up towards ourselves so that both pieces are kind of forming up. And then we're going to take our fingers and we're going to run them along the top and the bottom of this piece, curving the paper ever so slightly. This is the training the paper of what to do so that it can create the rainbow in this fun interactive mechanism. Now next, I'm going to take some more of that nice strong 1/8 inch double-sided tape. I'm going to add some to the top here. So one long piece here and then two little pieces here on either side of this opening where our tab is eventually going to go. And then we're also going to flip this piece over and we're going to add two pieces of the 1/8 inch tape at the very bottom here. So underneath that fold line that we did earlier, we're going to add two strips of this nice strong tape. Next, we're going to die cut some pattern paper. This is some spiffy speckles paper with this piece here. I call it the bookmark looking piece out of the Over the Rainbow die. We're going to flip over our rainbow mechanism and we're going to peel up the liner paper on those two pieces that we added at the very bottom of the back. We'll flip it back over and we're going to line the very bottom of this rainbow piece with the very bottom of this pull tab piece. And it's very easy to line up and we can just press down and secure that. Then we're going to set that aside and we're going to start working on the window for this interactive mechanism. So I have a piece of cardstock here that's 5¼ by 4 inches. Actually, it's a piece of pattern paper. And we're going to take this window creator piece, we're going to center it, and we're going to line up the top of that piece with the top of our cardstock and then hold it in place with some low tack tape. You'll see there's these like two little prongs at the top. They are going to stick off the top of your cardstock. That's exactly how you want it to look. You just want the top of that kind of flat part of the die lining up with the top of your pattern paper. We're going to run that through the die cut machine and now we have this really pretty opening with the stitch detail that is going to fit our rainbow mechanism. But at this point I realized I forgot to stamp on the pull tab and that's okay. We can stop and stamp now. And so we're going to be using that Henry's Build a Sentiment honeybee and I'm picking out Don't Worry, Be Happy. And so I'm going to line these up. So I'm going to stack these together. They kind of have a natural cling and then we can go ahead and stack them together too. And once I have those in place on my work surface, I can pick it up with my acrylic block and I'm going to be ready to stamp. And so I'm going to take out my black licorice ink and just ink this up just a little bit. And then I'm just going to move the rainbow out of the way and stamp. I should have done my stamping earlier, but the good thing is if you forget, it's very easy to add it later on. So we're going to go ahead and stamp on that pull tab so that when we eventually pull it, we'll have the little surprise of the sentiment. And now we can get back to making our mechanism. So we're going to peel up the liner paper of that adhesive that we added to the very top of the rainbow mechanism. And then we're going to line up the window opening with the rainbow and that notch with the tab. And this is really, really easy to line up because it just fits in just perfectly. And then once it's lined up, we can press down to secure the adhesive at the top. Next, we're going to flip it over and we're going to be adding some foam strips. And so we're going to add those foam strips on the very bottom here, right underneath the mechanism, and then on either side, and then also at the edge of the card. And that way we have a lot of foam all around the mechanism, but not touching the mechanism. So it'll give it some nice support, but the mechanism can still move freely. Then we can peel up the liner paper on all of these pieces, and then we're going to layer this on top of a piece of paper that's the same size, 5¼ by 4, and I used the same paper because I wanted it to look the same underneath when we lifted the rainbow. And so we can just go ahead and line these two pieces up, and then we're going to have my favorite part, which is I always love to test it and see how it works. And here you can see that rainbow start to form, and then the "Don't worry, be happy" sentiment at the top, which is so super cute. Now the Over the Rainbow die has this really cute cloud piece, and we're going to be adding that at the bottom of the rainbow. So I'm going to add some foam strips around. You want to make sure to add foam strips on this piece, but make sure it doesn't get in the way of the mechanism moving. And then we can layer that cloud on. Now, I always like to layer the cloud on first before I do some stamping. I want there to be a surprise when you lift up the rainbow, and I thought a smiley face would be really cute because it goes along with the "Don't worry, be happy" sentiment and the cute smiling bees. So I'm using the All the Smile stamp set, which has all the smiles and all the sizes, and I picked out a big smiley face, and you can see I'm just holding that rainbow up with my left hand so that I can stamp with my right hand. And so I'm just going to press down right in the center, and isn't that so cute? It's a fun little surprise. It's a cute place to put a stamped image or a little sentiment there, but I thought the smiley face would be adorable. Now here the die set has this little pull tab decorative piece that has the arrow that lets the recipient know there's something special about this card. And so I'm just going to layer that up top, and I die cut that out of some ballet slippers cardstock. Now we're going to bring in those bees that we worked on earlier, and we are going to be layering this on to the rainbow. And I'm kind of guessing to see, okay, where are they going to go? And now I kind of know where I need to put my adhesive. So I'm just putting a little bit on the side of the bee and then onto the flower. And you can tape things right onto this rainbow, and then they kind of go for a ride on the rainbow as you lift the rainbow up, which is so super cute. So the only adhesive is actually onto the rainbow, not onto like the pretty blue speckled paper. And so we'll do the same thing with the other bee. We're adding adhesive just to the parts that are going to touch the rainbow. And now I can test it to make sure. And as I pull the tab, you can see the bees lift up, and it is so super cute. For some extra decoration, I'm going to be bringing out some of these new tiny treasures. I'm going to use the hearts and, of course, the rainbows. And so I'm going to take a bunch of these. I like to just kind of pour them out onto my work surface and kind of see what I'm working with different colors and things. And I like that these are cute for shakers, but they're really cute for like little decorations. So I'm going to add drops of glue with my glue tube, and then I'm going to layer on little hearts and stars all around these bees. The next thing that I need to do is work on the card base. So the card base is going to be standard size. It's 5½ by 4¼ and I have a piece of our Gleeful Gradients paper, and I love that gradient. It's so pretty. And so I'm just going to add some tape runner to the card base, and then I can layer the pattern paper on top of that. And then for our Over the Rainbow mechanism, I always like to layer these on with foam squares because the pop gives you a place to be able to really like hold on to that pull tab. So I added a bunch of little foam squares onto this. We can peel up the liner paper and then layer this whole piece on to the card panel. And oh my gosh, look at that. Isn't that so cute? The little bees, they're just so happy. And then when you pull the thing, the "Don't worry, be happy" and the smiley face that shows up, and that cute little bee smiling with the flower and the little hearts and little rainbows all around. It's just so cute. It just makes me smile. I love the three-dimensional nature of this card, and I love that it can go in a standard envelope and standard postage, but it really has this big wow effect that I just love. Next up, Chari is going to make a super cute card, so take it away, Chari.
So on my card today, I am using the Hive from the new Build a Bee die set, but instead of using the bees that come with this, I'm going to pull in some stamped images. So I have Din Sweet Din for the cute bears and Hive 5 for some smaller bees and that jar of honey. But the first thing I want to do is to work on my background. So I'm going to set my stamped and colored images aside, and I am going to use a stitched rectangle to cut a piece of blush cardstock. And I'm going to use the new Be Happy background stencils. There are 4 stencils in this stencil set to create a subtle background for my beehive. So I'm starting out with stencil number 1, and this one does the little trails and the wings of the bees. So for this one, I'm using Kiddie Pool, and I'm trying to go in with a light hand because I want this background to not be too busy. I want the bees to be just a subtle pattern in the background behind my hive. So I'm going all over with this kiddie pool ink. And also, once this ink dries, it does get a little bit lighter as it absorbs into the cardstock. So that's helpful as well. I actually probably could have ignored the very bottom because I'm going to cover that up with some patterned paper, but it's just easier to do the whole thing versus figuring out where to stop. Now I'm moving on to stencil number 2, and as you can see there are etching lines on there, so I can line this up with the trails and the wings that I have already stenciled. For the bodies of the bees, I'm using Peachy Keen for a tone-on-tone pink bee look for my background. Then to create the little stripes and the stingers and the little eyes, I'm using stencil number 3, and I'm going to go in with a light gray. So I have manatee ink here, and I did kind of dry my ink just a little bit, the pink ink, before I went in with the gray, just because these two are overlapping on each other, and I wanted to make sure they didn't kind of bleed at all. These look really dark right now, but once they dried, they were very subtle with the gray, and I really like how it turned out. So I'll peel this away and you'll see all our little bees have stingers and stripes now. And now I'm moving on to the fourth and final stencil in this background stencil set, which are the tiny little hearts. And for this, I just pulled out a slightly darker pink. You can see I'm tapping off the ink a lot there in the center of my stencil where there aren't any openings so that I don't get the hearts too dark. And look how pretty that is. I also wanted to show you another background I made in the Build a Critter bug costume video. This one's on mist cardstock, and I used Distress Oxides for the pigment ink to sit on that colored cardstock. So I'm just going to set my background pieces aside, and we're going to pull out the new Giddy for Gingham Petite paper pack. And I am going for this blue gingham here, and I'm just going to create kind of a little base at the bottom of my card for my little bears to sort of sit on to give them a floor to sit on. And also this is going to be a great place for my sentiment. So I used the same stitch rectangle to trim this out so it's going to match up with my background that I stenciled. And I cut it to 1.5 inches. I decided that was a little tall. I want it a little shorter, so I'm going to trim it to 1.25 inches. You can always make it shorter, but you cannot make it taller. For the sentiment, I'm using Henry's Build a Sentiment Honeybee to lay out the words that say "You're the bee's knees" down here at the bottom. I'm just making sure that's centered on my little gingham piece, and then I will pick this up with the door of my Misty and stamp this in black ink. And then I am just going to go ahead and add this right along the bottom of my rectangle. I can also add this little scrap piece of storm cloud cardstock to the back of my hive. I kind of wish I had cut it slightly wider, but I'm just lining up the bottom of it with the bottom of the hive. And now I have that little opening filled in. I also wanted to add some shading to this hive. So you can see I have my piece of sunflower cardstock over there. I was testing out my markers. I think this is a great way to kind of see if the colors work before you use them on your die cuts. And I'm going to be using 2 shades of yellow to add some shading to the little ribs of my hive. So I went with my darker one first, just pulling that color in from the outside edge. And now I'm going in with a lighter one to kind of blend it out to the cardstock color. And this is just going to really give it some nice definition and make it not look quite so flat. We're going to see those ribs kind of come to life. Now I want a craft background on this card, so I just cut a piece to 4.25 by 5.5, and I'm putting that onto a card base. You could also make your card base out of craft cardstock if you wanted. And then before I put my panel on that I did my stenciling, I'm going to take some coral twine and wrap it around twice and tie a little bow. And what I'm wanting to do is to put this twine right at the intersection of my stencil background and my gingham to kind of create a little border there with some texture and that cute little bow. And I'm just going to adjust it once it's tied to make sure it's right there at that line between my two papers. And then I put some foam tape all over the back and I will pop this right onto my card. And so now it will have that nice craft cardstock frame around it. I'm going to add some foam squares to the back of my hive. I'm going to pop this on here a little bit above the string so that I have some wiggle room to create some different heights in my images and my hive. I have my little bear here. I'm going to give him the little honey dipper. And then I have my big bear who's going to have the honey pot. And then this bear over here, he had too much honey and he fell asleep. So he's going to be over here on the side, asleep beside the hive. And I just added a little foam square under his head and then glued the rest of him directly to the hive. For the honey pot, I'm adding a thin foam square so it has a little bit of dimension off of the bear. And then I can tuck my big bear over here on the right side. So I will put some foam squares down along the right side of the bear that's going to be hanging off the hive. And then I will use liquid glue where it touches the hive. And I'm just going to tuck him right behind that bow that I tied with the twine. And then for my little baby bear here who really wants some more honey, I'm just going to glue him right on there and tuck his little honey dipper behind my honey jar. So I did cut out some of the little flowers that are part of the Build a Bee die set, and I am going to decorate my hive with the flowers and the little heart, which is also from that die set. So I'm putting the little heart above the door. This is from raspberry cardstock. My flowers are cut from the new Sunset Orange cardstock, and I'm just kind of sprinkling them around to give my hive a pretty floral look. I also cut the centers of the flowers from some vanilla malt cardstock, so it's that kind of cream color. And I just put a little dot of glue in the center of each flower, and I'm going to pick these up with my pickup pokey tool and drop them into place. Then, of course, I also have my little bees from Hive 5. This one's going to go directly onto the hive. And then the one that is flying facing forward, I'm just going to add with a foam square up here in the top right corner. I was trying to decide, but I forgot that I wanted to add a little more to the sentiment. I wanted this to say, "My friend, you're the bee's knees." So I am pulling out the My Friend, which is also part of the Henry's Build a Sentiment Honey Bee stamp set. I'm going to stamp this on peach cardstock, so it is not the same color as the background. It is slightly different in color. And I'm going to trim this out with the smallest sentiment banner. And I'm going to have this hang off the left side of my panel. So you can see there what that looks like. I need to add a little comma. And I'm just kind of seeing where it needs to be trimmed off to fit on my card properly. And I will just add this with a little bit of glue directly to that stenciled background. And then finally, for some glitter on this card, I glittered the wings of the bees, the centers of the flowers, the little heart, and I also added some glitter to that little honey dipper. And here is my finished card, and I think it just turned out so adorable. Those bears are going to sleep good eating all that honey.
Oh my goodness, Shari, this is so cute. I love those bears with the honey. It's just an adorable way to use this set. And next up, we have some incredible cards by the design team. And this one with Tammy with the big blossom backdrop is so cute. I can't wait to make one just like it. This card here by Mindy is so sweet, and I love that she used that bee stencil in the background and the cute little honeybee flying around. This card by Grace is gorgeous. I love that green paper in the background with the purple. It's just so pretty. This card by Yanea is so sweet. I love how she created that flagged banner with the pattern paper over the stencil background. It's just adorable. This card here by Megan is so pretty, and I love how she used the honeycomb stencil. It is a perfect match for these cute bees. And then here are those little mini cards by Elise that inspired us to make ours. I love all of her different little sentiments in the bees in different positions with the hearts. It's just so sweet and so cute. I love how Audrey stenciled the Be Happy background onto the yellow cardstock. I think it looks so beautiful, and she added some glossy accents to the bees to really make them shine. And then this card here by Callie is so fun, and I love how she layered vellum over her stencil background. It looks so pretty with her cute bees. And then this card by Letitia is so fun. I love the bright blue clouds in the background and all the flowers she added over the beehive and the stamp sentiment on it too. So we cannot wait to see all of your bee cards, so make sure to share them with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!